Hi, I'm Neil Christensen, author of Dark White and Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey, and you're watching another one of my sporadic episodes of I'm Reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to. Before we dive into today's chapter, which is chapter 14, I'd like to point out that there's 21 chapters in this book, which means we are well over halfway through. We are approaching the end. And while I know that the series is sporadic and it seems like there's a long time between episodes, um, I am getting close to wrapping up this series. And uh, it's been fun, but I want to keep going. So, what I'm asking of you is to tell me, what book do you want me to read next? What's a challenging book that you've never been able to get yourself to get through? I was thinking of maybe Moby Dick, but I'm not sure. You guys tell me, what book would you like someone to walk you through to essentially read so you don't have to? Let me know in the comments, and we'll take a little poll and make a decision on what book we're reading next. Today we're covering Chapter 14. Chapter 14 details what Karen was going through after escaping the house on Ash Tree Lane. Toward the end of October, Navidson went up to Lowell to take care of his brother's things. He assured Karen that he would join her and the children by the 1st of November. Instead, he flew straight back down to Charlottesville. When Thanksgiving came and went, and Navidson still had not made it to New York, Karen called Fowler. Fowler is the man Karen had had an affair with previously. He was an actor in New York that Karen had met by accident when she stepped off a curb and twisted her ankle. He had helped her up, and being charming and attractive, Karen had given him her phone number. Of course, affair is a relative term, seeing as how Will and Karen weren't actually married. In an interview with Audrey, the friend of Karen's who was helping her build the bookshelf when the house mysteriously changed for the first time, she suggests that this arrangement was more of Karen's choosing than Will's. Navi would have married her in a second. She was always the one against it. She wanted her freedom and then would go berserk when he was away. Her whole affair with Fowler was about that. Karen seemed to struggle with balancing her relationship with her husband and kids with her own self identity. She desperately wanted to be someone, but didn't know how to find that in herself. After Navidson had vanished down the spiral staircase, Karen found herself trapped between two thresholds, one leading into the house and the other leading out of it. Even though she finally did succeed in leaving Ash Tree Lane, and in some respects Navidson, she was still incapable of entering any sort of dark, enclosed place. Even in New York, she refused to take subways and always avoided elevators. This, of course, reflects what we heard about Wax being unable to walk into even his own closets after his physical recovery. Zampano takes some time to reflect on how Karen got here, noting that while there was already distance between Will and Karen before the house, due to his constant traveling for work, the house was supposed to fix that, not make it worse. After a decade of distance, the house was supposed to be a new beginning. Navidson gave up assignments abroad, and Karen vowed to concentrate on raising their family. But this too became difficult, as with Will working from home, he had more time to dedicate to the family. He played more with the children, and every day filled the rooms with his substantial energy and natural authority. Karen was not strong enough to define her own space. She needed help. This brings us back to her affair with Fowler. While Navidson refused to make her infidelities a public part of the film, he seemed incapable of excluding them either. Consequently, he symbolizes her transgressions in the sealed, hand-carved ivory case containing Aaron's valuables, including, of course, the love letters Fowler had written to her. Will clearly knew of their existence and even where she kept them. He also knew what a toll the house had taken on her. She was spent, done, completely at the end of her rope, but Will was still compelled by the house, perhaps even more so having lost his brother to it. It's safe to assume Navidson knew Karen better than anyone else. No doubt his knowledge of Fowler, the cache of letters, certainly the discovery of wax in Karen's kiss, contributed to his decision to return to the house for one more exploration. He left her to New York because by then he knew she was already gone. And she was. As much as Will knew Karen and knew that he had already lost her, she too knew that Will was gone as well. Fixated on the house and unable to let go of the mystery, that explains why upon returning to New York, she made a half-hearted attempt to rekindle the affair with Fowler. But her heart wasn't in that either. The trauma she endured at the house on Ash Tree Lane may have killed the practical relationship between her and Will, but it also created a trauma bond. Between that and her work on editing the film that Will had sent her with, she found an emotional connection to her husband that may have been missing in the pre-house portion of their marriage. She had begun to see Will as a man, a person, not just a husband. She saw his humanity and his love for humanity too. Thus, the second affair with Fowler was short-lived and lacking any passion or connection. Yeah, she called me up, said she was in town, how about a drink, that sort of thing. I must have seen her 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. She looked like hell, and she'd changed over the months. Pale, darker, didn't smile much. The last time we went out, she said she only had a few minutes. She had to get back to that film she was editing. She was different from when I first met her. She needed him. I could see that in her eyes. All fucked up and needing him. But as that story usually goes, he wasn't around no more. Which was true. Navidson was no longer around, except, of course, Karen still saw him every day. After chapter 13 feeling like the climax of a traditional thriller or horror novel, chapter 14 does feel a little bit like a denouement. It feels like an epilogue almost, like a postscript, like, okay, the whole thing is over. They've split up. He's back at the house and just moving on without her. And she's back in New York with the kids, trying to move on without him. Unfortunately for both of them, this is not the ending of the story. That being said, for us, the reader, it does feel like a nice respite, a kind of quiet, peaceful, take a breath moment after like chapter after chapter of just insanity. So even though no really useful, valuable narrative information is really introduced in this chapter, it still gives us a break. It gives us that breath after the enormity of chapter 13 and kind of lets us refocus ourselves, recenter ourselves, and prepare ourselves for what we know is to come. Because as I said before, there's 21 chapters. So chapter 14 is not anywhere close to the end. And we know that just looking at the book. But narratively, the author is doing something almost kind to the reader. There's no crazy text formatting in this chapter. There's only really one long footnote from Johnny that isn't even relevant. I didn't even put it in the synopsis. But you know, it's giving us that normalcy. Jesus Christ, there's a fly in here. It's like right out of Sports Night. You must have one well-lit apartment, lady, because you went around a corner. So that's it. Chapter 14. Chapter 15 starts to get a little weird again. Not weird like, you know, not the weirdest that we've experienced, but it does start to kind of creep back into the tone of the book. And hopefully I'll be able to put that up in not too long. I've read it. I just need to script it and shoot it. but you guys know how long that takes me. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with chapter 15.